I'm calling this meeting to order at 7:31 p.m. We'll start first with Section 2 roll call. Clerk Carter.
All right, we have to do formal roll calls, so I do have to call out all your names. So if I call out your name and you're here, please say present. If you're not here, don't say anything. All right, Senator Samuel.
Present.
All right, Senator Siddiqui. Senator Bobbitt.
Present.
Senator Reiselhawk.
Present.
Senator Henley.
Present.
Senator Brown. Senator Island.
Present.
Senator Azard.
Present.
Senator Lewis.
Present.
Senator Kroll. Senator Enzi. Senator Hall. Senator Keller.
Present.
Senator Beatty.
Present.
Senator Sauls. Senator Foster. Senator Mallard.
Present.
Senator Stinnett.
Present.
Senator Miller.
Present.
Senator Adriana Owens.
Present.
Senator Victoria Owens.
Present.
Senator Hansen.
Present.
Senator Pang.
Present.
Senator Rise. Senator Grajeda.
Present.
Senator Luna.
Present.
Senator Barnes.
Present.
Senator Haynes.
Present.
Senator Hatch.
Present.
Senator Pizzini.
Present.
Senator Murphy. Senator Carlson. Senator Locke.
Present.
Senator Knuckles. All right, with 24 present, simple majority is 13 and 2/3 majority is 16.
Great. We'll move to swearing in of the Elections Commission.
For those being sworn as election commissioners, you can just come up here. And please raise your right hand. And if you, when I finish the statement, please respond with "I do." Do you hereby swear that you will faithfully serve the students of Wichita State University, act in accordance with the Constitution of the student body, and fulfill the duties that you're about to enter require of the office of the 67th session of the association? Will you, to the best of your ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the student body of Wichita State University?
I do.
Congratulations.
Okay, we move to Section 3, introductions and reports. First, we have messages from the student body president, which there are none, so we move directly to 3.2, report from the executive branch, Vice President Fawn.
Good evening, everyone. I hope your break went well, and Happy New Year, Lunar New Year. So over break, President Howard and I participated in the fall commencement throughout the different ceremonies, and we really enjoyed the opportunity to meet the many students that were graduating from Wichita State in the fall. On January 15th, President Howard and I went to the Kansas Board of Regents meeting. Some of the things that were discussed were the funds for the completion of the construction of Cessna Stadium, the beginning of conversations of 2 to 3 year programs, in addition to the continuation of the first 15 initiatives. Last week, President Howard and I went to the meet and greet for our new provost, along with Speaker Owens and several other members of our student government. And we also met with Director Saul of Athletics for our quarterly lunch. In the meeting with Director Saul, we discussed programs, progress within our athletics programs, initiatives that they would like to achieve, and what we wanted to work on moving forward. This Saturday, we hosted Emporia's Well, last Saturday we hosted Emporia State's student government here for their retreat. Their retreat went well. Pretty much their entire Emporia State student government came down on Saturday, and we were able to have some fruitful conversations on comparing what our SJs were kind of like. In addition to, they were able to have a couple keynote speakers here on that day as well. Yesterday, we went to the PET, or Deans and Constituency Heads meetings. They discussed the spring enrollment numbers for this year, slight policy changes to the university's policy regarding indoor space heaters, in addition to updates on active construction projects across the university. For the space heaters policy updates, they're just reaffirming that the university will not have space heaters inside of the dorms and within offices. Heated blankets are allowed, but most of the changes they made were just slight modifications to their language. We have an open position for our associate justice position still, so if you or anyone is interested, you can still apply through Shocker Sync. Additionally, we have several positions still open for the Finance Commission. If you or anyone know anyone that might be interested in that, our applications will still be open for a little bit longer, but we'll close them within a few weeks. Finally, for President Howard and I, we decided over break to mutually part ways with our Director of Wellness and Sustainability, Emery Hadley, due to personal circumstances that came up. We are really grateful for their contributions to our cabinet and the main initiatives we have and to their service to SGA. For now, President Howard and I will take over the responsibilities of that position until the end of the semester, until the end of the session, or until we find someone that might be interested in taking up that position. For the updates for our student body treasurer Wong, today we just had our finance commission meeting where we reviewed several applications for individual organizational funding. We approved one organizational funding and then several individual funding. If you want to learn more about those, please let her know, or you can talk to me after Senate. In addition, 2 weeks ago, the Finance Commission passed with a majority vote to freeze 7 appropriation accounts for student organizations. The reasoning for this was that they did not fill out a survey towards the end of the fall semester to update the progress, update the Finance Commission on progress on whether or not what they used their funds for, what feedback they had on the appropriations process, in addition to updates to contact information. Out of those 7, 3 of them have currently resolved filling out that survey or are currently working with the treasurer to fill those out. The other organizations that we haven't heard back from will have until February 1st before they receive an additional violation, which would disqualify them for further funds. If you have any questions on what those groups are, I would be more than happy to answer them later on today. For student fees, we'll have our trainings for that soon for our Finance Commission. So by February 7th, applications should be due, and then the Finance Commission will start looking over the budgets once all those are finalized. And then we will also be finalizing our dates for our funding task force discussion. So if you are on the funding task force, please be sure to fill out the one to meet that we put out in the group me. And if you want to be involved in those conversations, even if you're not on the task force, please let the treasurer or I know. For our Director of International Student Affairs, Munjae, he is currently working on organizing a guest speaker event scheduled for February 27th, which will be from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. This event is being planned in collaboration with the International Student Union and the Shocker Career Accelerator. The goal of this is to provide international students with insights from professionals who have successfully navigated the workforce despite sponsorship challenges. So some updates for that project. One of the 4 planned panelists has confirmed that they'll be there over the break. In addition, they're still working on getting updates on whether or not the remaining panelists will be there. For the Wichita Transit travel training that they've been working on, they conducted a training session on January 17th on campus. This training just aimed to help students navigate the transit system a lot more effectively. We're still working with Wichita Transit on finalizing some brochures that will be sent out. They just had some turnover in their department, but those will be sent out very soon. Earlier today, Director 1J, President Hauer, and I attended a meeting with Dr. Hall of Student Affairs to discuss the organization of an immigration panel. This initiative is designed to educate international students and other students on campus about their rights and legal responsibilities while studying within the United States. This is in the planning stages, so we're still working out details, but our goal is to get this done within a month or so. For our Director of Leadership and Engagement, Fritz, Freshman Leadership Council is planning their Valentine's party and has started with a shadowing program. Actually today, one of our members of our Freshman Leadership Council, Case Brown over there, sitting by Advisor Fonseca, is shadowing Speaker Owens today. So we welcome you to our Senate meeting. They are also, Freshman Leadership Council is also planning to participate and volunteer for a WOO's Big event coming up very soon. For our Director of Media Relations, Sanoff, she is currently working on posts for elections with the Elections Committee, and she is also working on promoting the different SGA events that we have for this semester, and we're also preparing more official flyers and brochures to hand out at our tabling events. For our Director of Student Organizations, Chohan, the applications for the new Student Organizations Council is now open. So for any student organizations that want to participate in that, the applications are all on Shocker Sync, and several emails should have been sent out regarding on how to apply for the Student Organizations Council and what that would entail. And we're interviewing 2 applicants this Friday for some positions, and we're waiting on 1 more. For our undergraduate applicant, Wassinger, she has 10 cases open right now. 8 of them are academic appeals, 1 is a traffic appeal, and 1 is an academic integrity case. In addition to those cases, the Accessibility and Disability Pride Task Force will have their first meeting on January 6th, and she encourages any and all senators to shoot her an email with any related concerns or issues experienced by their community, by their constituency, that you would like the task force to address. For our graduate advocate Tran, she currently has 2 cases. And in addition to those 2 cases, she is finalizing the graduate advocacy survey. So those surveys should be finalized very soon and sent out to graduate students in conjunction with the graduate school. In addition to that, she is looking forward to serving on the Accessibility and Disability Pride Task Force and tabling at the Causes and Issues Fair later in February. For our Director of Legislative and Policy Affairs, Arens, she is just adding the finishing touches to planning for our Higher Education Day coming up very soon. We have our list of legislators that we're planning to talk to all finalized, and we'll be sending out a group me for all of the students involved in that, and we'll be sending out emails regarding a training on how to talk to legislators and how to approach promoting the different topics that the the Council for Student Body Presidents that we all agreed on. In addition to that, we have all of our hotel rooms booked for that event, in addition to working with other student governments. But I know that was a super long report, so if anyone has any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them, and I'm really excited to work with you all further this session and with all the different initiatives that you have this year.
Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. Oh, where? Okay, Senator Mallard?
It is more so a statement, but you should, sort of question, tell everyone when WOO's big event is, since it is technically in a week.
That's a great question. So WOO's big event is in 10 days. It's a really great way to meet members from your constituency if you want to, all in a big room. I actually met Sir David Liu for the first time at was a big event, and he really talked me into joining Senate in the first place. So if you want to talk to students, it's a great way to meet students.
Also to get your community service hours if you need those for any of the organizations you're part of. But any other questions? Seeing none, thank you. We'll move to 3.3, report from the Speaker of the Senate. Hi, everyone. Happy Lunar New Year and happy Kansas Day. I hope you all had a good break. But as we're getting back to Senate this week, there are a few important things we need to discuss, a few reminders. As Matthew already said, everyone give a wave to Case here from the Freshman Leadership Council. Make sure he feels welcome because I'm trying to convince him to join Senate. But a couple updates. We have Higher Education Day coming up February 12th. We'll be leaving the 11th. We have a couple of our members, including leadership and those outside of leadership. AJ Haynes, Andrew Hatch, Andrew Bobbitt, Morgan Sinnett, Diana Grajeda, Adriana Owens, and Noah Carter, and myself, obviously. We'll be heading over there and doing some good work. And we'll be back the 12th by committee time. So you're not off the hook for that day. You still have to come in and go to Senate and go to committee time that day. And I'll provide you all with a report on everything that happened there and those kinds of things. So look out for that. Student fees is obviously coming up. It's from March 3rd to March 5th. It's an incredibly important time to be talking about our services on campus and funding those services. It's a lot of money to be allocating, so we will have Gabe the week before discuss some of the minutia for that process. This includes a pretty lengthy presentation. You all have to be there for Committee of the Whole in order to better understand the process and also be well informed going into that process as well, because we want to make sure that you know exactly what's happening and exactly what you're doing during that process. As Vice President Fawn already stated, there are spots open. So I will send out an email to all of you with what spots are open, and if any of them are applicable to you, I urge that you go join and go have a look. Because it's a really, really important time to be involved, and it may be long hours, but hey, it's for the student body, and that is the most important thing you could ever do in this position, is advocate for the student body. So join Finance Commission. Beyond that, that means we have some deadlines that are very specific for this upcoming session in terms of legislation. The last day to submit legislation, and I'll make sure I email all this to you, it'll be a long list of things I'm emailing you, but hey, it'll be good. Is April 5th. That's the time that you can get your legislation for its first read, its committee appointments, its second read, but I urge you not to wait till then. Because as much as that's the last date, that doesn't factor any potential problems or any potential changes, or if something happens, or if committee can't meet, which we were seeing happen more and more. I need y'all to get your stuff in. And we had our one-on-ones today, so I'm holding you to the promises you made today when I asked you, can you do that by this time, or can I trust you to do that? You all said yes. I expect you to do it. So I'll send an email to all of you with all the things that you promised you'd do for your homework, and I expect it to be done. But as well, as Vice President Fawn said, our funding tests were also met over the break to work on fixing appropriations and student fees for the next academic year. We're getting everything sorted, getting our ideas on the table before we meet formally for that process. So if you are on that committee, fill out the form for your schedule, and then we can get started with that, because we really need to start getting stuff done there. Also, I want to remind you all that Food for Farms is February 3rd to the 7th. Parking tickets usually increase during break and during the week everyone's returning. So if you have gotten a ticket that is applicable for this process, it is February 3rd to the 7th. Make sure you're donating your canned food to the areas on campus, and get that parking ticket paid off with that food by donating. Super exciting, super cool process, and it's a great way to give back to your community. Also, if you have class during Senate time, or if you have class during committee time, some of you have come up to me, talked about it, and filled out excuse forms. Thank you. Some of you haven't yet, so please do that. Please fill out the excuse form, and if you aren't able to make it, fill out that excuse form. It's not too hard. I even accept it after Senate, so get it filled out. Please, I beg you. And then for tonight's agenda, any legislation put in government oversight today has been asked to be moved to legislative affairs as its committee assignment, just for attendance reasons. We need to make sure these legislation are going through a committee that is well attended and is able to fully go over that, because we just want to make sure that gets, the reads possible and those kinds of things. So that'll be something, you'll see government oversight on those bills. We'll change that after the fact. And that'll be an easy little fix there. But last thing here is I just want to remind you all of why you joined Senate in the first place, where we are now, and to reflect on the last semester, and to reflect on your goals that we talked about when we first sat in these chairs and got sworn in. Just to remind you that you're here for the student body, you're here to get your goals done and to feel proud of the work you've done. And I'm proud of all of you. Good work. Give yourself a little light snap. Stunning, stunning, beautiful stuff. Because it's tough to be here every week and to, you commit so much time of your life to this, even when you're a student as well. So I'm very proud of all of you, and we're going to get through it together. So beyond that, are there any questions? Good stuff. We'll move to 3.4, report from government oversight. Chairperson Bobbitt.
Nothing to report.
Okie dokie. We'll move to report from academic affairs. Chairperson Grata.
Hello. My laptop won't connect to the Wi-Fi, so we're on my phone today. So a representative from Faculty Senate is going to be coming to public forum next week to speak on a proposed change to course schedules. All of you should have gotten an email from me about this last week. Senators, please read through it fully and read through the attached document. It's super important that you read every little thing on there. And then Dr. Brett Bruner and I have scheduled for him to come to academic affairs and have some discussion over advising. And then him and I will be meeting about adding a student representative to the University Advising Council. Lastly, academic affairs was not able to meet today, so that's my full report. Any questions?
Any questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to 3.6, report from Diversity, Empowerment, and Inclusion. Chairperson Haynes.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Happy Lunar New Year. Hope everybody had a good break. My report is a little lengthy today, so please bear with me, but I will speed on through it. So, today we had committee today where we restructured all of our goals and just reassessed. I had to lock in for whatever limited time we had. Currently, what I'm doing is I'm scheduling meetings, or I'm going to schedule meetings with Dr. Saramata, the director of HSI initiatives on this campus, as well as all the agency presidents under my purview, just to see where we're at with everything, with their goals, what they wanted to complete for the year before the session ends. Additionally, I will schedule the Asian Student Conference and International Student Union listening sessions for February and for March. So yeah, I'm going to be in the talks of those pretty soon. Favorite part of the report, agency updates. So Asian Student Conference had their Lunar New Year celebration yesterday. It was a pretty well-attended event. They had the line dancers outside. It was really nice. The music was cool. Then they had, ASC had their general body meeting yesterday, and they had their ASC Hot Pot Night last week. I could not get to go because I was out of town, but I heard the food was really good, so shout out to ASC for that. For Black Student Union, they had their winter clothing drive from January 22nd to the January 23rd. They donate those clothes to the community, so it was really nice to see them come back to the semester with a service project. Love that for them. They have bingo night scheduled for January 30th, which is tomorrow, in RSC 266 at 7 p.m. The Black History calendar has been released, so if anybody would like access to that, please let me know, and I will also keep y'all updated as the events come up. They had, and they also had their first general body meeting yesterday. The theme of that general body meeting was New Year, New Me, I believe. Just looking to move forward into the new year, what things they can add, drop, that kind of stuff. Regarding Hispanic American Leadership Organization, they had their first general body meeting was their karaoke night, held that last week, where they also fielded one of the new organizations coming to campus. So that was fun. And then they had pie and exec member today. And if you didn't know, you got to pay Yvonne for $20, and you should have taken full advantage of that. Unfortunately, I did not because I am broke, but you should have been there and you should have done that. last but not least, International Student Union. They have their Spring into ISU General Body meeting on January 30th at 3 p.m. in the RSC. And then some major events that they have planned for this semester are the FIFA tournament, badminton tournament, the career workshops, and then we're having Interfest again. So if y'all don't support nothing else, support these agencies and their events. They have, they put in a lot of work to put on amazing programs for y'all. So yeah, and it's time for any questions.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. We'll move to 3.7, report from Student Services Chairperson Adriana Owens.
I don't have much to report on. My committee voted today to unanimously pass the No Smoking or Vaping Signage Act and the MyWSU SGA inquiry form legislation, so we should see that on the floor soon. I'm open to questions.
Are there any questions? Okay, beautiful. Seeing none, we'll move to 3.8, report from the Central Office. Central Office.
Hi, everyone. There we go. First, yes, Happy New Year and Happy Lunar Year and Happy Kansas Day. And welcome back. Hopefully you all had a restful break. And classes so far are going well, right? Yep. Okay, those were all the smiley faces. Couple things that I just wanted to kind of or share. Election season officially kicks off today. You'll hear from the Elections Commission about that process and how to expect to go through the election process this upcoming season. Our clerks and the chief of staff have been working on producing all the records from the fall, and everything for the fall is now done. And so if you have any questions or would like to look at that, we are putting that together for folks as well to kind of help us get caught up and not be delayed in the spring. Shocker Toy Locker is open and moving along well. If you haven't stopped by to see the new space in the basement of the Success Center, I encourage you to do so. Things are going well there. If you have not completed your Title IX training that the university requires of students, please make sure you do that. The deadline is February 7th. Information is on your MyWSU as well as your Shocker Blast. So please complete their Title IX training. This was one of the things that SGA a couple years ago asked the university to make required, and the university now makes it required. So please make sure you do that. Additionally, just a couple of things that as folks are just kind of paying attention to. If you haven't noticed, or I don't know, our new Senior Executive Vice President and Provost, Dr. Monica Lansbury, officially started. We're working with her office to have her come to Senate one night so that you guys can meet her and get to ask her questions if you have any. Student Health is doing a survey to try and get feedback on services that they're providing. That information is should have gotten to your email, but it's also on Shocker Blast as well, with the link to complete that survey. So please do that and share it with your constituents so that they can include it as well. Kind of picking back off what the speaker mentioned, spring semester, there's a lot of things that are happening in student government with elections, with student fees. It's easy for our attention to move on to other things, but you do have a job to do for the next 11 weeks of what's left of this session. So don't waste that time and use it wisely, and make sure that you continue to work on the agenda that you set for yourself. And if there's anything that I can help you do in this semester, please let me know so we can help move along your thoughts for the semester. And that is it. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. We'll move to 3.9, announcement of the 2025 general election by Chief Kilman.
Okay, hi everyone. Before I get started to give the briefing, I'm going to allow these two to introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, my name's Kyla Gordon. I'm from Denver, Colorado, and I am a senior majoring in management.
I'm Natalie Benjamin. I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma, majoring in exercise science, and I'm a junior.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bella Kilman, and I am serving as the Chief Elections Commissioner for the 2025 SGA general election. Pursuant to my duty mentioned in the Legislative Journal, we're here to brief the Association on the official general election announcement. For reference, the Commission is governed by Article 9 of the SGA bylaws, the Association's elections. Tonight's briefing will include information regarding any and all positions to be contested in the election, all qualifications to seek election for these positions, the process of obtaining and submitting applications for candidacy, specific dates of events and deadlines for elections, and finally, the text of any constitutional amendment or referendum to be presented to the association for approval and enactment or rejection. For the 2025 general election, there are a total of 51 seats to be contested. These numbers were presented by our advisor, who developed them according to the fall 20th day records from the University Registrar's Office in Article 4, Section 1 of the Constitution that determines the number of seats open. The contested seats are as follows: Student Body President and Vice President, College of Applied Studies, 6, College of Business, 6, College of Engineering, 6, College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, 6, College of Fine Arts, 2, College of Health Professions, 4, Honors College, 2, Graduate School, 3, Out of State, 2, Underserved, 5, Military and Veterans, 1, International, 4, Adult Learners, 2, and Freshmen, 2. To be a candidate for senator, an association member must be a currently enrolled student as defined by the college or school in which they are enrolled, and must have and maintain a 2.5 cumulative grade point average, or have and maintain in good standing in graduate school as defined by the graduate school catalog, except in cases when the candidate is an incoming student and does not yet have a college grade point average. In such a case, it shall be necessary for the incoming student to be admitted in good standing as defined by the university. To be a candidate for student body president or student body vice president, an association member must have and maintain a 2.5 cumulative grade point average and be at least a junior by the beginning of the fall following the election. Tomorrow, the SGA Elections website will include all the forms and documents needed to be officially declared for candidacy to serve to secure a spot on the ballot. Every individual candidate must submit the declaration for candidacy via Shocker Sync by March 3rd, 2025 at 11:59 p.m. The Commission will be hosting 3 intent-to-run sessions, which are completely optional but definitely encouraged for those who are interested in running to attend. They are as follows: February 3rd at 5:30 p.m. in RSC 208, February 12th at 5:30 p.m. in RSC 208, and February 18th at 5:30 p.m. in RSC 208. Additionally, there are 3 rules and regulation sessions which are mandatory for candidates to attend to learn more about what is and isn't allowed during running. They are, got too many papers up here. March 4th at 5:30 p.m. in RSC 208, March 5th at 5:30 p.m. in RSC 208, and March 6th at 5:30 p.m. in RSC 208. For those who are interested in running as president and vice president ticket, there will be 2 debates this year, one on Monday, March 31st, and one on Thursday, April 3rd. Both will be here in RSC 233 at 6 o'clock p.m., as well as live streamed on the SGA's YouTube channel. The general election voting will open on Monday, April 7th at 8 a.m. and run through Wednesday, April 9th at 5 o'clock p.m. via Simply Voting. Additionally, should the Senate decide to approve any amendments to the Constitution, the ballot will close on Friday, March 28th at 5 o'clock p.m. for proper testing and adjustments prior to the general election on April 7th. At any time, should you have any questions during the election period, you can contact me at sga.elections@wichita.edu or Dr. Gabriel Fonseca, the association advisor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I will also send out that schedule in an email to all of you. And it'll be available on the Teams as well, pending Gabe putting it on the Teams. Okay, wonderful. We moved directly to Section 4, Public Forum and Presentations. Public forum provides a chance for individuals to have the privilege of speaking before the Senate. This is a time for the association to listen to what the community has to say, and to that we offer undivided respect and attention. I would like to remind everyone that although we allow the speakers the privilege to use this platform, the opinions of the speakers do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the association or the university. Is there anyone who would like to speak in public forum at this time? Senator Evelyn Lewis.
So it's good to see you all again. I come before you now as just a normal transgender student. And gotta be honest, we are terrified. Your transgender constituents are terrified. Because the Republican administration has been following their Project 2025 to a T. And within that project is the goal to label all transgender people in the U.S. as, as criminals that can only be punished by the death penalty. And that's terrifying. So, and we have a word for fascists who want to work to exterminate, eradicate, or get rid of undesirables. It's Republicans. And we know what this leads to. We've seen it all before. We've heard it in history class. And we know what they're trying. Our job now is to stop, slow, or annoy these efforts. Every little bit helps. Every measure to help students fight back or protect them is useful and necessary. You're here to serve your constituents, and now it's time to protect them. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Lewis. Will you be answering questions?
If there are any, yeah.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in public forum at this time? Clerk Carter.
For all intents and purposes, Clerk Carter is dead right now. So actually right now is speaking Vice President of Communications for Sigma Phi Epsilon. So just forget him. He was lame and boring anyway. This version of NOAA you can expect to be spunky and responsible. So I'm here to talk about the Balanced Man Scholarship, which is a scholarship that SIGEP offers for incoming freshmen and transfer students in both the spring and fall semesters. We have up to $1,000 in scholarships this semester. You do not have to be interested in Greek life or joining Greek life to get this scholarship. All that's necessary is that we find you a balanced man. So if you have anyone that you think might be interested in that, that's incoming to Wichita State, make sure to let them know. Thanks. Oh, the deadline is April 13th.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Also a light clap would be very appropriate. Thank you. Anyone else who would like to speak in public forum? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. We'll move to Section 5, approval of the consent agenda. This just has our minutes, so are there any objections to approving the consent agenda as such? Seeing none, it is approved. We have no Section 6, but we do have a Section 7, consideration of new business, 7.1.
Act on request to approve SB-67-148 ADHD testing scholarship creation.
Is the author here and would like to speak? You have the floor.
Hi guys, so I'm just going to briefly talk a little bit about this. Basically what it is just making a scholarship for people who are needing ADHD documentation to get tested for that. Right now our proposed full scholarship amount is going to be $10,000 for the 2025 to 2026 year. Basically how it'll work is there's going to be like an application. We're going to try not to make it like super cumbersome, but it'll basically talk about how this is going to benefit them, their goals for the future, and then any financial need that they might have. It's going to go to the Hardship Fund Committee for purposes of anonymity and things of that need. Talking to Isabel Medina Kaiser, the director of OSAT, there is a pretty big need for this. She has mentioned that there will be many students coming to her, whether it's for like from tabling or just coming to her office saying, hey, like, how can I get set up with OSAT? I'm pretty sure that I need accommodations, but she can't really help them in that matter of like getting tested or funds or too much of anything because they don't have documentation in order to be like set up with OSAP. So ADHD testing, I don't know if any of you guys know, but it can be pretty expensive. So this is kind of just helping to financially assist those people in that way. Yeah, and I'll be standing for questions.
Wonderful. Are there any questions? Chairperson Bobbitt.
I have a series of questions, so if we can go to whoever else may have questions, and then I ask the speaker to entertain my series of questions.
I'll allow that. I do have a question. At the university, do you know the figure amount of how much it costs to get tested at the university? Because I know it's in the hundred range, like hundreds of dollars, but I wasn't sure how much exactly.
Oh, no, you're good. I don't know of the exact figure at the university. I know WISE, she had mentioned the WISE clinic. Sometimes it can be offered for free. She was wanting to kind of do something to maybe see if it could keep it internal, but so far there's really nothing like as far as caps or anything for like that's set up for ADHD testing in that sense. But yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions besides Chairperson Bobbitt? Okay, Chairperson Bobbitt, take it away.
So in the resolution, it states that the money for this scholarship shall come out of the special projects funds. You had stated that this $10,000 would just be for fiscal year 25 to 26. Is there a plan for funding this long term?
So as of now, for my communications with President Hauer and everybody of that nature, it'll be up to, I had put it, I forgot which article or section I put it in, but it's going to be up to the next sessions to figure out where the next source of funding or the next like amount is going to come from. This $10,000 is just kind of like a see how many people will actually come and apply for it, kind of just like a somewhat of a smaller amount to kind of gauge that, but that's kind of how that will work. And then, yeah.
Go ahead.
My next question on that is, do you think $10,000 would be an adequate amount of funding for this? At the $500 cap outlined in section 3, that would only provide for 20 students?
Yeah, so I had spoken to Isabel Kaiser as well. She's actually back. Hi. I had spoken to her as well. She had mentioned that she was okay with somewhat starting at a smaller amount just to make sure, you know, see how many people will come in and actually get that taken care of. I'm hoping that at some point there will be a way to write more legislation to get that replenished if it's necessary, or the next time it comes around to get that to be built a little bit more once we see that there actually is like an actual need. We know right now there's a need, but yeah.
Okay, and then how do you foresee funding administration happening? Are we giving students a check for $500? Are we paying bills? Have we talked to a service provider to see if we could outline kind of like they would just charge SGA for the funds, or?
So far, from what I understand, is it's going to be just a check straight up sent to them. If there's more, like when we hash this out more, if there's other options or if there's ways that we can maybe partner with somebody in the community so that we can directly see about like just getting the funds to them as well for that kind of like discount type thing, we could see about that as well, but yeah.
I can also clarify a little bit more. Since it goes through the hardship fund, I can tell you a little bit about that process and what that'll look like. For now, the hardship fund operates basically on an application basis where someone applies for an X amount of funding for whatever reason. They do their letter or little intro in order to inform the body of like why I need this funding. I need it for X amount. And then much like Finance Commission, they give their expense reports, and then that's approved through Finance Commission, and that's given through their accounts receivable, I believe, and they're given that in usually a refund process, which is typical if Y'all, I'm sure all of you have gotten a refund at some point, I hope, for your bank account. So that would be, if it's $500 for the ADHD testing, then that would be exactly that. They'd get that refund of $500, and then that funding would be utilized to then get that diagnosis. So just clarity for that. I'm gonna go to, okay, go ahead. He's waving at you, so Chairperson Bobbitt, go ahead.
Okay, and then it does specify that funding is to be administered by the committee. Have you discussed with the central office the logistics of handling that funding?
Not yet, no. Not yet, no. The committee is the Hardship Fund Committee. So as listed in the bylaws, like who is a part of the Hardship Fund Committee, that's who it would go to from what I understand. Yeah.
And right now that is Vice President Fawn acting as chair, then myself, the speaker, whoever is the speaker next session, and then our two advocates. Did I miss anyone? Yeah, that's it. That's the members of the Hardship Fund. Is that it for your questions? Okay, Senator Mallard, go ahead.
Yeah, we just wanted to ask real quick, in here, it doesn't look like it actually states where you can get the testing done, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Is that on purpose so that if you got the money, you could go potentially get tested off campus? Or do we want that to stay on campus? Or
They can get tested anywhere, basically. They just have to like send how much the proposed cost would be, but yeah.
Chairperson Owens.
Would you permit me to answer that question a bit?
I would allow it.
Okay. Also, here on campus, we aren't technically able to diagnose ADHD fully. We can do preliminary diagnoses, but the diagnosis would have to be then outsourced to a different community, and those are around like $2,000 up to. So this would cover like a small portion of the amount that it would take. I know that we talked to Jessica Provines and the CAPS individuals about what it would look like if we wanted to then get another person to do that testing, because we used to have that where we could diagnose ADHD here. But unfortunately, with the amount of master's students and other individuals who have that kind of ability to test have left campus or don't stay here for very long. So if we wanted to get someone here on campus who would be able to do it in-house, that would be awesome. But right now, it's just we don't have the funding for that.
Any other questions? Senator Hatch.
How do you plan on letting students know about this? Because it's not like a typical scholarship. I don't even know where you'd begin searching for that, I guess.
Informing them if they receive the funds or not, or?
Like, to apply for this, like if there's a student in need, how would they find out about this scholarship?
So I'd imagine we could put it up on our website also for Ms. Medina Kaiser as well. When students come to her office, like I mentioned, or come to her asking, she will now have somewhere that she can refer to them for funding. So that's how it's mostly going to be, that's how people are mostly going to know about it.
I can also say that our advocates are incredible resources in order to not only get funding from the Hardship Fund as it currently is formulated, but also for that as well. So I'm sure tabling, I'm sure OSAT can do many emails, because it would be super exciting to be like, we have this scholarship, please apply. So fantastic question though. Chairperson Bobbitt?
I have a question for Gabe on this one. With no long-term funding platform, does it make sense to put it in the bylaws, or would it make more sense as a Senate resolution directing money to be set aside for this reason for the next fiscal year?
Yeah, that's a great question. And similar to even the hardship funds, there's no minimum dollar amount we allocate towards those. And so it really is built in annually into our educational opportunity fund, which we get out of student fees. So I would encourage that as the committee reviews this, one, you either stipulate language that there has to be an established minimum in this account for future administrations to process in order for long-term funding to exist in it. Because you could leave it up to if next year's student body president doesn't want to pay for this, then they have that authority to not pay for it. If you don't legislate it, then it gives them the ability to make that decision. Is that what you're asking, or are you asking someone something different?
More so, like, given the current nature of it, does this belong in the bylaws?
Oh, got it. My advice would probably be to probably encourage that it probably sits in the bylaws, because the Senate resolution expires at the end of every session anyways. So if you want it long-term, then I would probably legislate it from a bylaw standpoint. If you legislate it through a Senate resolution right in April 20, whatever day it is, well, that resolution will expire, and then it depends on the next session to do from there. So I think it's fine if you want to legislate it into the bylaws to establish the minimum, similar to how we do with organizational funding, how there's a minimum there. I think it's fine to legislate it in there, but if you don't legislate it, then you leave it up to next president to decide how they want to pay for it or not pay for it.
And I do have one more thing for Gabe here, and Senator Zard already knows this as well as we had other conversations. Talk to us about Act 2 and those kinds of things.
Yeah, so Act 2 can't technically happen until the actual bylaw is amended. You can't do two of the same things in one, because one is a funding bill, which is a different rule than the bylaws amendment. So in committee, I would recommend you strike it, because you could not pass both in the same bill, and then work with the president to introduce legislation separately to fund it. Additionally, I would also encourage you to talk about when you want this to go into effect. If this passes next week, are you saying this immediately goes into effect in the spring, or are you saying this goes into effect next academic year? Because right now the chapter doesn't specify when this should go into effect. So I would encourage those two conversations to come up in committee as well.
I will clarify that it does instate a deadline, August 1st, 2025.
Right, but that would be in the section that you would be striking off. Yeah.
Exactly.
So that means you would need to put it back in, or if this doesn't go into effect until the 68th session, then you don't have funding for it for 67, which means you'll have to get funding for 67, and then next year's president will have to fund it for 68 if it goes from there. So, and we can talk about that. I can come to committee, or I can chat with you to talk about the best way to legislate that language too.
Are there any other questions? Senator Henley?
It's my understanding that the psychology clinic can also do ADHD diagnosis. Would you be open to talking with the person who's in charge of the clinic here to see if they may do discounts or anything for students here?
Most definitely. Are you referring to the WISE clinic or CAPS?
I don't know what it's called. It's just a psychology clinic. It's in Javara. We have our doctoral students do assessments there.
Okay, yeah. That's something, again, she had mentioned that having them do like internal things such as that. And then again, if we were to put the scholarship like in connection with that and maybe, again, hash that out as well. But that is an option. I could definitely reach out to them as well. Thank you for mentioning that.
Senator Hatch?
Hopefully this scholarship gets used like to its fullest, but if there were funds to be left over, would those just roll over? What does that look like?
That's actually going to be a Gabe question. Sorry.
Just like the rest of them, they roll over into SJ's reserves.
It's the same with the hardship fund as well. Chairperson Bobbitt?
More of a statement than the question, but to clarify what Gabe means by that is if you do not legislate that the money stays there, or that this has to be continuously funded at the end of the year, any unspent dollars would return to SGA, meaning that if you don't provide a funding source for it, no future allocations would be guaranteed.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. This is this bill's first read. It'll go to Student Services, and I hope everyone in Student Services were listening intently to that discussion, and Gabe will be there as well in Student Services, since he's offered his time, to be there to help you all, tweak the bill so that it can be pursuant to our bylaws in order to get this passed. So, We will move directly on to whenever I get my agenda open to 7.2.
Act on request to approve AR-67-013 cameras in the Heskett Center.
Is the author here and would like to speak? You have the floor. Also, wave to Isabella as she goes, wave. Thank you for coming. Thank you so much. We're nice here.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we're going to be speaking about this resolution, and seeing as there have been national increases in student safety concerns, this has given our student body the necessary feeling to question the ability of our university facilities to protect our best interests. With compounding empirical evidence to suggest poor judgment and security management on behalf of campus recreation when it comes to the Heskett Center, perhaps disproportionately affecting students of color, it is time that we take such concerns seriously and pursue the appropriate means towards ensuring the safety of our student body and relevant surrounding populations. The resolution before you tonight proposes a couple of different options for campus recreation in order to not only directly implement security and recording devices to manage the facility better, but also additionally provide the opportunity for campus recreation to create their own means by which they can investigate challenges that have occurred in the past and also give over relevant information to other forces on campus in terms of investigating concerns that happen on their grounds. For these reasons, I urge your utmost attention to the proposed suggestions towards recreational security concerns, and I now stand open for questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Chairperson Bobbitt.
Once again, I got a series on this one, so if anyone else has any.
Anybody else besides Chairperson Bobbitt? Okay, take it away.
Okay. My first question is, have you actually reached out to anyone at the Heskett Center to discuss what their security plans look like and or the need for cameras at the facility?
We've tried to reach out for small menial comments, but looking more proactively at the outlined security protocol measures that the Heskett Center currently has outlined on their website, we see that they only specifically outline minimizing future risk, as is outlined in lines 1 through 3 of the resolution here. However, by walking around the facility and hearing about concerns that have happened within, like, for example, their upstairs gym, where there are no recording devices, when there have been altercations in the past where there's no accountability on behalf of campus recreation, we see that there is still a need, especially as outside Wichita community members have access to the facility as well.
Chairperson Bobbitt.
I'll just ask that one again for clarity. You have not spoken to anyone at Campus Rec?
Not directly, no.
Okay.
Chairperson Bobbitt.
Then you outlined that the resolution calls for Campus Rec to authorize the installment of security cameras. Have you spoken to anyone with facilities or anyone at the university level who would actually oversee that installation and or authorize it?
We know that similar projects are in the works right now, so we know that there is a campus need and outlined responsibility that the campus has begun to take on in terms of similar projects. For example, we know that the Radigan Student Centers in efforts to increase security protocols by working towards the installation of security cameras within the next fiscal year or so. So knowing that there's a similar need within campus recreation facilities, we feel as if it would be feasible to urge the installation before there are any further altercations that could negatively impact student and community life.
Chairperson Bobbitt.
On the final point, asking for campus recreation to compile necessary staff members to form a investigative task force. Have you reached out to Campus Rec to talk about the feasibility of such a program?
Right. We have reached out for comment with no acceptance of responses on that end. However, we have seen empirically where people such as John Lee have been increasingly supportive of efforts such as these to ensure that students are really getting the most out of the campus recreation facilities and ensuring that all students are safe on campus. One thing that we specifically wanted to emphasize with this resolution is the need for security maintenance, not just on the end of students, but because many people in the broader Wichita community have access to these facilities. We've seen that with programs like F45, we have lots of elderly and obviously obviously non-student populations coming to use these facilities. And since there aren't extensive security protocols in measure, whether that even just be security people that are walking around the building and monitoring, the only concrete measures that are in right now is getting students to scan their ID cards. However, even those measures aren't completely enforced every single time a student walks into the building for classes or other things such as that.
Chairperson Bobbitt.
Okay, then I guess my final question for you on this one is how would these security policies be implemented within the procedures outlined for the rest of the broader university? I understand that the concerns you raised were investigated through the university's official channels, ultimately determining that the university would not take action on them.
If I believe I'm answering your question properly, so one thing that we talked about right now is the ambiguity in the university security protocol and emergency operations management right now. We know that they have very vague propositions in order to minimize the risk of future harm, and we believe that that should include security surveillance or recording devices in public spaces. So I believe the question you're asking is more so geared towards how we know necessarily that the university would be able to implement these policies. And the true answer is that we don't necessarily know that they will adopt them. And that kind of begs the necessity to provide multiple different options and avenues through which we can still ensure that students are safe here on campus.
Senator Hatch.
Yeah, so I'm one of the students that's currently working on getting security cameras, like working with the RSC for security cameras in the RSC, as well as getting security cameras installed in parking lots around campus. I have a meeting with the captain of the police that's been working with security cameras the last couple of years on Friday. Would you be interested in like joining that meeting with me and people from the RSC and maybe even like merging our bills just to get one security camera resolution through and funded?
Thank you for the proposition. I would be definitely open more to discussing the feasibility of that meeting later on.
Any other questions? Senator NC.
So you talk about altercations in the Heskett Center. Do you have statistics on past altercations and numbers on that? On like how often are there altercations? Like have there been an increase recently, decrease? Like what's that looking like?
I don't have a specific statistical figure to provide for you here tonight. However, we have had the unique opportunity to be able to talk to students who have been involved in specific instances where there have been mismanaged cases of altercations that have happened within the Heskett Center, and where subsequent investigations have been closed even after significant student harm has occurred because there was no accountability to be taken by campus recreation due to the lack of surveillance devices, recording technology, and extensive security measures as is outlined in the resolution.
Chairperson Bobbitt.
Thank you. I would ask the senator to please be mindful of the allegations you are putting out there. It is my understanding that Campus Rec did not manage that investigation, and I would just ask that you be respectful of university personnel and the processes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I have one, and we discussed this earlier, so I'd love to get your response just for everybody else, because I've always already heard your response here. But I know there are plans in the 10-year master plan to demolish that building, so you can talk a little bit about the importance of installing these cameras now within your resolution. You talk about it a little bit more, but I want to give you the platform to discuss that a little bit more.
Right, thank you. I know on the floor, even in the past during this session, we've talked about how there are still some gray areas in terms of how soon the 10-year plan will be put into proposition. And as we heard from John Lee earlier on this year, there are still ongoing discussions talking about whether or not the Heskett Center would be replaced. So with this resolution, some of the language included ensures that we are still able to have increased security provisions even despite the looming demolishment at hand. And secondarily, we think it's very important because, as I previously discussed, that the Heskett Center is accessible to those outside of the Wichita State student community, and because people all throughout the Wichita area and even surrounding suburbs and things of that nature have access. We want to make sure that our students are as safe as possible and that their security concerns are being taken into account, and that we as a university are able to provide a safe environment for our constituents.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. This is this resolution's first read, and it'll go to Student Services, and after, obviously, it's second read back here. Just a reminder, this is an association resolution, not a Senate bill. They are entirely different. An association resolution is urging the university to do something on behalf of the association itself. So it does not formally instate that something has to occur, but urges the university to do something. So often these bills are a little bit more vague. That's on purpose, so the university is able to implement those items in a way that is appropriate for that university. But we'll move directly to 7.3.
Act on request to approve SB-67-149 Membership Review Board Amendment. Act.
You have the floor.
Hi everyone again. So for this bill, Speaker Owens and I met over a few weeks ago and just discussed amendments that we would like to see to the membership review board process. As it is right now, the process is really lengthy, and we haven't had, I don't believe we had a case fully go through the entire process for this session, but this bill would basically make that process a little bit easier in terms of attendance policy, where if you miss 3 Senate meetings, the clerk of the Senate will inform the association advisor, and then from there he would, Dr. Fonseca would, in this case, remove them from their Senate position. We also made a couple changes to the structure of the Membership Review Board. Agencies will no longer be members of the Membership Review Board under this process, under this amendment, and the reason why we removed them was because we felt like they didn't know as much about the internal processes within the SJs, in particular the Senate, and the bylaws as much as other members that would be on the committee. We also amended the number of chairpersons on the committee from 4 to 2, as chosen by the Speaker of the Senate, in addition to increasing the number of executive representatives on the MRB from 1 to 2. And then after that, we modified the role of the association's advisor on MRB to now be a non-voting ex officio member of the committee. So the committee should still have an odd number of people serving on there. And when you look at the bill, you see a lot of crossed out sections within the bylaws. A lot of those crossed out sections are just removing those parts that we crossed out to different parts of the membership review board process. For example, we removed subsection 6A, 6B from section 3 of Chapter 7 of the Membership Review Board to the procedure for regulations and sanction of removal, subsections 7, 8, and 9 of Section 3 of Chapter 7, the Membership Review Board, were also moved to a new chapter titled in the bill, Temporary Suspension or Removal by the Association Advisor. As I described earlier, the removal of the advisor would just basically be for reasons of not attending Senate meetings for 3 meetings that are not excused by the Speaker of the Senate. In addition to that, I added a clause where if you are not sworn in within 2 Senate meetings after the first Senate meeting of the session without being excused by the Speaker, the advisor will retain the ability to vacate the Senate position as the senator was not sworn in, and that was a problem that we had a little bit this year, so that was just addressing that issue. In addition to that, that section that I just mentioned of temporary suspension or removal by association advisor also includes a section where if the member is not in good standing with the university, they would be removed. That was actually taken from another section of the bylaws, so that's just removing it to that location and reaffirming it within that section. But there's a lot of text in there. I can go into a little bit more detail if you have any more questions, but I'll be more than happy to answer any.
And I will say a couple things about this process and my years here in Senate. The Membership Review Board has looked many different ways, and I'm sure Gabe can attest to this as well. It's been a different process literally every year I've been here. And it was time for an overhaul of the bylaws. It didn't make sense. Some of the words were spelled wrong. Trial was spelled trail, and those kinds of things that were just like, it is time to have a look at this. And we did have a discussion with Chairperson Bobbitt and a couple other people as well about changing a few other things in committee, just wording things to make things a little bit more clear. Both Vice President Fawn and I are open to that, of course, because it was a lot of time looking at this document, so it's always nice to get a second opinion there. But beyond that, are there any questions about this process? Anything anyone has? Chairperson Bobbitt?
Kind of a two-parter, but they're connected. Why did you feel it was important to increase the number of executive seats on the board, and why was it important to limit the number of chair people?
Yeah, so we increased the number of positions on the executive branch to make it an odd number as opposed to, because we decreased the number of chair people on there, and we decreased the number of chairpersons on there because we wasn't chairpersons on there because we felt like it wasn't necessary to have all four members of the all the chairs of the committees on there. Because it can be kind of cumbersome, I think, requiring all four instead of just having two instead chosen by the Speaker of the Senate.
Any other questions? What's your part two, Chairperson Bobbitt? Okay. Any other questions about this? Senator Mallard?
If you're put on the review board, and because I was reading the you have to submit documentation and stuff, and so then if you pass, if you're put on there again, could you be put on there again for the same stuff, or how many times could you be put on the review board, or is there a process for that?
Typically people are on membership review board one time before they're removed, because it's the body to remove people within the association. I should have clarified. Let me clarify a little bit about what the membership review board looks right now so that you all understand. It's a little bit of an interesting process, but the Speaker of the Senate here is, if it's, let's say, an attendance issue, then the clerk here will notify myself and our advisor that there has been a violation of attendance policy. They will write legislation to submit that to the membership review board. The membership review board will then file the complaint, send it to the complainant in this situation, which is the senator who has allegedly made those attendance violations. Typically that includes the date of said missing whatever event that they missed to accrue 3 unexcused absences. And then after that, a week period passes from sending that to the complainant, where that complainant can respond in any way that they think is appropriate to this piece of legislation, saying, I didn't do this, or I didn't. Most time for attendance, they don't respond, or they recuse themselves from Senate and withdraw their seat. So just say, I decided to exit from Senate, I give up my duties, those kinds of things. Following that week process, then the Senate meets with membership review board, goes over the case, and decides whether or not they want to move forward this case item. The complainant is given that time in order to join that meeting. Pending that, if the committee decides to go forward, they give that option for that person to come. Sometimes they don't come, especially for attendance issues, but they're able to if they would like to. If that is voted on, the majority of, I think it's majority of the membership review board passes that, it'll go to the Senate. Can you see how that's a very long process? And it's a little bit confusing, and it doesn't really make all that sense. So our problem with that was we should probably fix that to make it make a little bit more sense and to make it more cohesive and a little bit better. Does that answer? That was a long-winded. I just thought you all should know what I have to go through whenever I have to do membership review board. Any other questions on that piece of this legislation? Anything else? Okay, seeing none, this will not go to government oversight. It will go to legislative affairs for its committee time. And we will move on to, I'll find it, and I'll find it. Okay, 7.4.
Act on request to approve SB-67-150, Management of the Student Fees Reserves Act.
The author is not here, so Gabe will, Dr. Advisor Fonseca will take their place.
Hi. So of course I am not Jawin, but she is not here today and asked me to present this. So last session there was a question from some senators about wanting to establish policy on when and how to use the student fee reserves. This is the now $1 million reserve that was established last session, or that was filled last session. And so this is proposed language that would govern the usage of those reserves and the purpose of it. So this would be amending the section that talks about funding regulations to add this chapter on how to guide the student government on how to use the student fees reserve. You can read that, but I will stand for any questions if there are any.
Are there any questions? Lovely. Seeing none, thank you very much. This will go to legislative affairs as well. How quick? That was so quick and easy. Okay, we'll move to 7.5.
Act on request to approve SB-67-151, Management of the SGA Capital Fund.
Oh, and look, you're already here. Go ahead.
Again, I'm not Jawin, but here we go. Last session, we also established the capital fund that was utilized by, or that's now available for folks to utilize. The same thing, there was questions on how that fund would be utilized and the process for that. And so the language is there again to establish that information, to talk about what the proper use of it, what it can be used on, what it can't be used on, and how the approval process on the use of those funds are, as well as some accountability and compliance components as well. Of course, you can read through that as well, so I will stand for any questions if there are any.
Are there any questions? Thank goodness. Seeing none, thank you. We'll move to Section 8, adjournment. I adjourn this meeting at 8:48 p.m. Don't leave yet. One last thing. So all of you talk to me in your one-on-ones about what you have to do, all of your homework. Reminder to do that, but also by this Friday at 5 p.m., because I'm also a student and busy, I will send all of you updates about the things that you all asked me today. And if you needed something from me, it'll all be in a really, really, really long email. So give that a little look and do your homework. And get your resolutions in Friday at 5 p.m. You know the deadline. Get them in. Thank you. You're free. Oh, take the cookies too. Take those home. Eat the cookies.